congratulations. So how did it all come about?
Yeah, look, it's just something that I guess the manager and the club goes through, so it's sort of been a couple of months in the making. But yeah, my manager, all the players have got them now, so they deal with it, and I was obviously really happy to stay with the club. It's not something that I had to think about, and when the opportunity came up, I jumped at it for sure.
Brilliant, and yeah, it is exciting times at the club, obviously. How are you finding your role in the back half down there?
Yeah, look, last year was really exciting for myself personally. I managed to play most of the games, so it was really good to feel a part of it and to get to a prelim final and sort of get a taste of that finals footy. And I think as for a team perspective as well, it was really exciting how far we could go and how far we'd improved in those couple of years, and just to see that we can compete with the really good teams, and hopefully we can go that one step further this year. So that's what we're looking at the moment, and we're working really hard at the moment. It's been a pretty tough pre-season so far, so as a backs group ourselves, we're really confident that we can come out and contribute together again this year.
A bit of a pre-season setback for Jackson Trengo. Does it sort of put some more greater onus on you to sort of step up into that breach?
No, look, I think we've all seen in the past that Jacko is real diligent with his rehab. I think he's aiming to be back by round one. So, he works really hard in the gym, and he's a really upbeat character. So, we're hoping that he's going to be back really soon. So, in the meantime, we'll just train as hard as we can. And, we've got a lot of players that can play that tall position. In Tommy Clory, who's flying, and Cam O'Shea, and those types of players. So, we'll just keep training, and before we know it, Jacko will be back in. So, I don't think it'll be too serious.
How do you feel with the way your game's coming along, mate? Only missed one game last year, obviously the three finals to get all the way through to the prelim. How comfortable are you, I suppose, with your position in the side?
Yeah, last year gave me a lot of confidence. I think just being able to play for a long period of time and be a part of it sort of gave me a bit of self-belief, and didn't know how that I could compete at that level. And I've still got a lot to learn. I got showed up a couple of times against some really good forwards in the competition, so you learn from those experiences, and then hopefully when it comes to you play on them this year, you learn from those times they beat you last year, and you improve, and hopefully if you play well as a defender, your team will win as well, which definitely helps.
It's not always easy for us to know what those situations are. Can you elaborate on what some of those learning experiences might have been last year?
Oh yeah, look, I just some sort of players, when Jacko and Bobby were going through some injuries last year, I got the opportunity to play on guys like Nick and Jack Rewalt, and they've kicked 4 or 5 goals on you, and it's something that at the time you're obviously really down about, and it's a pretty steep learning curve for you, but you got to look back on them now and try and get some positives from them, and look at them in a positive light and go, all right, this is how he beat me, what can I do this time? And that's what we work through during the pre-season, and you speak with Nick, our backlines coach, and you improve, and then hopefully you play them next time and you do a better job.
What do you hope to get out of the extra 2 years?
Look, honestly, I just hope that we can keep improving as a team. We get another year under our belt with a sort of a solid core of players, and we all improve together, and obviously winning a grand finals, the ultimate dream, and hopefully that's not too far away. We just got to work really hard, and I suppose you can't do much more than that.
What sort of progress do you think the side's made? I suppose this pre-season, every team this time of year thinks there's 17 other teams think they're a potential top 4 side, but where do you think the improvement has come from for you guys that you've noticed?
Look, I think we've probably just got, Vossi's come in and done some stuff with the midfield guys, which has been really good. Walshy was excellent for us last year, and then, Vossi's been really good, and he's slipped right in perfectly. And look, I think the main thing is, we're another year fitter. I know we say this every year, you get another pre-season and you get stronger and fitter, but considering ourselves as being a reasonably young team, it's really important that we get that fitness and that strength, and I think that's going to be a big positive for us. We can compete again against bigger bodies, and I think probably something that we learnt was, we got to a prelim and we lost, and I think you take a lot out of that, and you learn from that, and that's something that we can take into next year to know that, what you need to do, you're within a kick of a grand final, really.
I know results, are sort of a taboo thing to talk about, but would you set a benchmark for, you know, prelim as a minimum next year or this year?
Nah, not really. You can't really look at that yet. You know, basically, it's very cliche, but you've got to come in, you take it week by week, and, you know, you start talking about finals when they come along at the end of the year. So basically, we got to get to round one, and you got to win that first game, and then your season starts from there, really, and you track on and you see how you're going from there. But obviously, we really hope to be able to compete really hard this year.
You mentioned that pre-season's obviously been brutal for you guys this year. How much is that sort of pain for getting so close to the big dance last year? How much has that sort of been driving the group through the summer?
Yeah, look, it certainly does. I think, you know, Kenny brings it up occasionally, you know, just realise little things that we could have done during the game, and you think, yeah, okay, we could work on that, and you go out and it gives you a little perk up when you're a bit flat at training or something. And but, you know, there's that internal drive as well. I think, you know, Kane Corns is now the only player, I think, who played in that premiership, and he's always driving it. He's always telling us that, you know, you can't take playing finals footy for granted. So, you know, there's a lot of internal drive there from the players, and it's certainly, yes, sort of sits in the stomach and not quite right, yeah.
Have you gone back and watched the tape, either personally or as a group?
Nah, not as a group or personally. I haven't seen. I think Kenny's watched it quite a few times, and he's he's sort of picked a few things apart, and I think the coaches probably have. But as a player personally, I haven't seen it, and not as a group either.
Is there a reason for that?
I think you got to move on as well at some stage. You know what could and sort of went wrong or what went right, and you can just visualise that yourself. And I think you don't want to dwell on it too much. You just know that you got to the prelim, you lost, and you got to move on. I think you learn from that. Yeah.
The family be pretty stoked that you're trying to remain here in SA.
Yeah, look, they're really happy. Yeah, I think it's good that, you know, I'm obviously from South Australia, so I'm still in my home state, so that's really good. And they're in Adelaide, so, you know, it's another couple of years. But there was definitely no danger of me, leaving at all, for sure.
Is the depth of the back line stronger this year than last year, given the learning experiences you've had in the tough pre-season?
Yeah, I think that's one of our strengths. We've got so many of our younger players. I mean, Tommy Clory, I think we were talking about him last year as well, but he's taken another step up this year. He's just super fit, and he's a big, strong guy. So he's someone he played one game last year, and hopefully he can play a lot more this year. And he's really stood up at training. And then even some of our younger guys like Darcy Byrne-Jones as well, who's just a sort of small shutdown defender. He's tracking along really well. He's fit and strong. So basically, we know at training that we can put each other in certain positions, and we know that we're going to be able to compete.
Jackson Trengo is often the barometer of your back six. How vital is it that he comes back healthy for round one for you guys?
Yeah, look, you know, obviously he's a great player, and you want him in your team as soon as he's fit and healthy. But at the same time, if he's not available, then we've just got to be able to back ourselves in to get the job done. And I think, you know, Bobby Carlisle's a super experienced player, and Tommy Jonas, and Tommy Logan as well, and there's some real experience down there as well. So obviously we want Jacko back as soon as possible, but if he's not there for the early games, then, you know, we'll be all right and we'll back ourselves in.
Just on Jacko as well, I mean, obviously we're hoping he's going to be back round one, and that's great, and we saw how vital he was last year when he wasn't there. But I suppose during the pre-season, does it throw the balance out, or does it throw the preparation out in trying to get the best 18 ready for round one?
No, I mean, like, we obviously know what Jacko can do, so the coaches probably aren't too worried about seeing him play, but it gives a few other players a great opportunity, I think, to cement their spot or to have a real crack at seeing what the coaches can have a look at them. You know, some younger players, it gives them an opportunity to play on key position and on the key forward. So I think, you know, we can look at it as a real learning curve for some of those younger guys.